Lydia Daydal, Fight Connect TV. I'm here at the Helix in Dublin. I'm delighted to be joined by the man of the moment, KALLE SAUERLAND. How are we feeling ahead of an astonishing night tomorrow night in the 3 Arena?
Lydia, first of all, I am delighted to finally be in Dublin promoting boxing and not being here for something else, but being here to do a boxing event in Dublin. It's a special night tomorrow, live on the DAZN pay-per-view. We're coming with a 2-year anniversary of Misfits. Like the maddest 2 years, I've got to say. 24 and a half years of being in boxing promotion, but Misfits is the wildness of it is crazy. We saw it today and tomorrow night, you know, from KSI's first concert in 2 years, mad music, surprise appearances, no say no more. We are in Dublin, Ireland, something got to happen. And a card today where every fight has got a different storyline. There's a lot of spice, as we saw today. I'm not going to get drawn too much into that. We all saw what happened. But, you know, there's a storyline to every fight, whether you've got Premier League champions in a ring for the first time. You got HS Tiki Toki, the new bad boy of the scene, who smashed up the internet last night. It went absolutely viral. You know, you've got all these different storylines. You've got Anthony Taylor, Dean the Great. Those are sort of two household names for those who follow Misfits. Both champions. Sons of legends, Prince Nassim Hamed, Anderson Silva's son, also fighting. So, you know, where'd you stop? I mean, it's going to be a great night, and it's in Dublin.
Absolutely. Arguably, might be biased, but the home of fighting, but I leave that to the internet, right?
I don't disagree.
Listen, you mentioned there, you know, it's the storyline, okay? We've never seen anything like this in terms of the rapid pace that Misfits has grown from, I imagine, a business point of view and also from a fan following online. It just goes to show the difference in maybe the age generation and how quickly that things can take off, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm as I said before, I've promoted traditional boxing like almost 25 years, from heavyweight unification fights in football stadiums to, you know, promoting in front of 25,000 people in Japan, all over the world, from Vegas really to the northest part of Russia. Am I allowed to say that at the moment? Probably not, but never mind. It was before the war. But this space, like, when I first had the meeting with, me and Mams have been talking about it for years, with friends since we were kids, and it was in lockdown. We sort of sat, when I met JJ for the first time, and I thought we was all about one fight or something. I was like, nah, I don't really, it's like, I get it, but I don't think that's for me. And they had this vision of this space, and I was like, okay, hold on, that's something we can do. First thing was to get a good partner involved. That was DAZN, to become the home of boxing, more or less. And, you know, here we are, 17 events later. It's only the beginning. The numbers keep rising. This is our first pay-per-view without KSI boxing. He's performing still, but boxing in the main event. And he'll be back for more shows, but, you know, it's interesting to see that the other ones coming through as well. Very different to normal boxing, because it's not like they're coming through the amateur system. It's like they come out of nowhere. You know, I'm suddenly like, right, that name, okay. First thing I do is call my son, he's 16 years old. I said, right, have you heard of him? He goes, yes, Dad. That is the first qualification to Misfits. Nick Sauerland has to have heard of him.
Well, this is very similar, and it's on trend because obviously we have the big news at Oasis. Very different. We go to music, but Oasis obviously the big comeback. But there's a viral video that's gone out online of 2 TikTokers approaching Noel Gallagher on the street this weekend, and his son goes, "Oh, Dad!" And Noel is like, "Oh, okay, I don't know who you are, but my son does, so that means something." So I mean, look, the next generation are leading the way. Us old fogies are being taught, right?
Well, you'll definitely know old fogey, but I remember they're doing the first event at the O2 in London. And my son came, as he does to many of the events, and he's like, "Oh, can I get a selfie with that?" I said, "Well, who are they?" Right? I'm like, so all night, it's like, get over. It's like, okay, so just walk up to him, because to be honest, this space is very young. Yeah. But at the same time, you see people like Danny Simpson. Well, I've heard of Danny Simpson. Of course I have, because I'm a football fan. So, you know, so we do get the, you know, the demographic in this space is so A to Z. and it really depends on what cooking ingredients almost we want to bring into the kitchen for a certain event. This one is I'd say the widest we've had so far. There really is every sort of demographic. There's even hardcore boxing with Prince Nassim Hamed's son, MMA with Anderson Silva's son, and you've got HS Tiki Toki, who's a pretty controversial influencer. Not everyone's, a polarizer, which, by the way, Prince Nassim Hamed, for example, was a big polarizer at the time of being, overly cocky. People forget that Prince Nassim Hamed was actually booed at every fight until the end of his career. Chris Eubanks Sr. as well. So, it's a bit of everything there. But the exciting thing is, and I think the positive thing is, did you see how many people from the traditional boxing world were here today? I counted at least 5 different trainers. There's managers, there's agents. So that all trickles back into the traditional world, and that's for me really important as well.
And you know what? The blueprint is there for professional boxers to have a look at how to market yourself, how to promote yourself.
Well, I mean, recently there was already, we came up with a mystery opponent. There's mystery reveals now. I don't think it'll be that long before we see a tag team boxing match. I also think that shorter formats in boxing, like they are in every other sport, is going to be vital to holding on to a youth audience that, ultimately will become an adult audience and vital to boxing. And I just can't see kids in 20 years watching 12 rounds of boxing, which for me feels like too short. I want 15 rounds of boxing still. But every major sport is looking at shorter formats. And, people say, oh, well, 90 minutes of football still exists. Well, yeah, but go and have a look at the development of the five-a-side tournaments, the different leagues, especially in mainland Europe, that happening. Don't look at cricket obviously with 2020. Golf is looking at new formats. It's all over. We're kidding ourselves as boxing doesn't need to look at itself occasionally. We haven't had a change of rounds of championship fights since the 80s. So, and that was forced on the sport. So, I'm not saying every fight should be a one-round fight, but there are formats that I think in Misfits is an interesting place to see how they go. First time I thought about watching a tag team fight, I was like, how the hell is that going to work? But I've got to say, it was hugely entertaining, and brings about a whole new strategy. And I've watched it. I'm not going to name and shame anyone here, but I watched it with a couple of world champions, different of different countries as well. And we watched it back, and I said, well, imagine you had, I don't know, Pacquiao and Mayweather in one team, and you had, I don't know, De La Hoya and Ricky Hatton in another. Yeah, and I'm obviously playing fantasy here, but how fascinating would that be? The one gets a bit, he's going to go for the corner. He's got to block the corner to stop him tagging, but it's fascinating stuff.
Well, listen, you might have something there. We wait with bated breath to see what develops. But I think the whole premise of this is there's a space
Comments
for everyone.
This should be very good, by the way. The comments will be fantastic.
Well, I can't wait. But listen, thank you so much, KALLE SAUERLAND. I look forward to tomorrow night. It's going to be a great one. And welcome to Dublin, as I said. Hopefully now we'll have you back. This will be the start of something.
You will.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to Fight Connect TV here.